Okay, the book of Ecclesiastes is one of the wisdom books, and it offers us a thoughtful introspective journey through life's big questions. Uh, Written by the Kohelet, or the teacher, but traditionally thought to be Solomon, but other possibilities also exist, especially some Israelite who wrote down from the preaching of from the teachings or uh, preachings of this preacher. Basically, it explores the meaning of life, the purpose of our work, and the pursuit of wisdom. Let's go through this book of Ecclesiastic, primarily breaking down its themes, mysteries, and timeless insights. First six chapters, grossly, they talk about the observations or analysis of human existence or things that happen in a common man's life. And the next six chapters, 6 to 12, they are primarily advices to the mankind. So the book opens with the first chapter, Vanity of Life. The famous line, Hevel, Hevel, Hevel. Basically, it means mist, vapor, or wisp of smoke. But in our English Bibles, it was translated as meaningless, vanity. So everything is basically mist. That's what he says. So right from the start, the teacher sets a dull, sober tone, reflecting on the cycles of nature, time, and life itself. So he sees everything as repetitive and in a way futile. This chapter taps into the feeling we all sometimes have that life just seems to move in circles, and we are left wondering what's the point. Now, the teacher invites us to think deeply about our existence and recognize that worldly pursuits alone don't bring lasting satisfaction. Now, as he goes on, second chapter, pleasure, wisdom, and work. So basically, he shares his own personal experiment. He pursued every pleasure, wealth, success imaginable, hoping to find fulfillment. But no matter what he achieved, it left him feeling empty. Wisdom and foolishness seem equally fleeting, and even hard work doesn't bring lasting meaning because we can't take anything with us. This chapter reminds us that chasing pleasure or status won't satisfy the deeper longings of our soul. True contentment, the teacher hints, is found actually somewhere else, not the pleasures or wealth. Now, third chapter remains a time for everything. One of the famous passages, the teacher lists the time for everything: time to be born, time to die, time to laugh, time to weep, and so on. He acknowledges the beauty of God's timing, but there's still a mystery about it. The chapter teaches us that while life has its seasons, we can trust that God has a purpose for each moment in our lives, even when we don't understand it. So there's comfort in knowing that our lives are not random. God has set a season for everything. Now, chapter 4 talks about oppression, toil, and companionship. Here, the teacher turns his focus to the darker side of human existence: oppression, loneliness, and rivalry. He observes the pain of those who have no one to comfort them and praises companionship, saying two are better than one. And this chapter encourages us to seek meaningful relationships and reminds us that isolation can make life feel hollow. True joy comes from sharing our journey with others. Right? Chapter 5 talks about vanity of riches and reverence for God. So here the teacher warns about the dangers of riches, showing that they often lead to worry, dissatisfaction, and even more craving. He also advises approaching God with respect, reminding us not to make rash vows. In a world obsessed with wealth, this chapter reminds us to value humility and simplicity, emphasizing that true contentment comes from focusing on God rather than material gain. Now, sixth chapter talks about insatiable human appetite. Here, the teacher reflects on the human tendency to never feel satisfied. No matter how much wealth or success someone gains, it's never enough. Basically, this chapter also paints a stark picture of the chasing after the wind in ESV, striving after the wind. So that dominates human desires, illustrating how endless craving robs us of peace. It's a reminder that we can find peace only when we recognize that our needs are met by God, not by accumulating more. And seventh chapter talks about wisdom for living. Uh, this chapter takes a more practical turn with a collection of wise sayings. The teacher compares wisdom and folly, showing that wisdom, though limited, can help us live better. He touches on humility, patience, and self control, underscoring the value of wisdom in a life that's so often uncertain. This chapter reminds us to pursue humility and to remember that wisdom is a tool to navigate life, not a means to control it. Now, eighth chapter talks primarily the limits of human understanding. Here, the teacher explores the idea of justice and acknowledges the mystery of God's ways. He observes that sometimes wicked people seem to prosper while the righteous suffer. You remember, just like how we saw in the book of Job. He admits that ultimately we can't fully understand God's purposes. This chapter encourages us to live in reverence for God, recognizing that while we may not have all the answers, we can trust that He is just. Ninth chapter talks about life's unpredictability and the value of enjoyment. The teacher reminds us that death comes for everyone, basically righteous and wicked. Like he encourages us to enjoy life's simple pleasures like food, drink, and relationships, and to make the most of our time. While the teacher sees life as fleeting, he also sees the goodness in embracing moments of joy and gratitude. This chapter urges to find delight in life's everyday gifts, recognizing each as a blessing. Now, 10th chapter talks about the folly of foolishness. The teacher contrasts wisdom and foolishness, showing how easily folly can ruin our lives, reputations, and even nations. He encourages us to avoid thoughtless actions and foolish pride, warning that a single mistake can overshadow a lifetime of wisdom. This chapter serves as a reminder to live carefully, valuing discernment and the wisdom that keeps us steady even amid life's uncertainties. Now, 11th and 12th chapter, they seem to be offering the perfect solution for the maladies of human life. 11th chapter talks primarily about living boldly and trusting God's timing. In this chapter, the teacher encourages us to take risks and embrace life. He uses metaphors about sowing seeds and watching clouds, hinting that if we are always waiting for perfect conditions, we will never take action. This chapter challenges to live boldly, to trust God's timing, and to remember that life is an adventure that requires faith. And 12th chapter talks primarily about the remembering our Creator and facing mortality. So here the teacher concludes with a powerful message. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. He describes the aging process in a poetic language, ultimately reminding us of our mortality and our need for God. The final verses conclude with this profound truth: fear God and keep His commandments. For this is the duty of all mankind. In the end, we are called to live in reverence, recognizing that our lives are temporary, but our connection with God is eternal. So, final reflections. This book of Ecclesiastes challenges to think deeply about life's meaning, teaching us that neither pleasure, work, wisdom, nor wealth can satisfy our souls. It's a book that wrestles with life's hardest questions, reminding us that while we may not understand everything, we can find peace and purpose by trusting in God. This timeless wisdom encourages us to appreciate life's simple joys, seek God's wisdom and live with an open heart, knowing that He is in control. God is in control. In the end, Ecclesiastes brings us to a place of humility and awe. Life might be filled with mysteries, but God's presence gives it meaning and purpose. The teacher reminds us that our ultimate fulfillment is not found under the sun, but in our relationship with God, the creator of everything. God bless you.